Hi, my name is Fredrik Christensen, and if you're watching this, I suppose that you've heard that I might be leaving Ticketmaster, or you might be of one of my, I don't know, 7 followers on YouTube. So, this video I'm making is just a little bit of, I guess it's my attempt to communicate a little bit about who I am, what my role at Ticketmaster has been so far, and what what's next for me and what I would like to do. So, well, I've been doing professional development for about 3 years. I was scouted for my first startup when I was in at the university. I still am part of that startup, which it's doing fairly well. We've been running that startup company for about 3 or 4 years now, I think. Um, and then I was, well, headhunted, if you will, into another company I was working at previously. And then after about a year working there, Ticketmaster got in contact and wanted me to come over and become their front end specialist, which was it was a really proud moment for me because I had really only been in the industry for about a year, and Ticketmaster is a fairly large company, and for them to contact me and say, hey, we need you to be a specialist in essence on on React and front end development and all that stuff, right? That was It was amazing. I mean, how many as I said, I've been doing that for a year, but apparently my portfolio impressed them. So said and done, I moved over to Ticketmaster and I arrived there and I was introduced to their code base, and I'm gonna be honest, it was like 5, maybe 10 years of complete neglect. It showed very clearly there was a distinct presence of not in, of not understanding how to structure a modern application with JavaScript and doing that stuff. It was very clear that they needed help, for real. And I was actually told that the situation had been so. I'm gonna be honest. I completely believe this story. It's still just an office rumor, but they said that they lost 2 front end developers already. I think they managed to stay around for about a year each, and then they just gave up because refactoring that mountain of legacy was so horrendous. And when I actually arrived, that there was almost or maybe 2 or 3 people in the entire company who had any type of idea what was going on in this company, in the front end code base, right? So I was quite out of my depth, but it's let it never be said that I don't love a challenge. So and I did get some help later on. We hired another very talented colleague of mine. His name is Alan Bargy, and if you're looking to hire somebody and you can get him, if you're looking for front end dev or something, hire that guy because he is absolutely amazing. He's really talented, and I mean, just pay him what he needs to be paid and get him because he will do such awesome things for your company or for your clients. Trust me, and his hair is amazing. Enough about Alan. Anyway, so what basically happened was that we had to start. We made an inventory, or rather I did when I started out, to figure out, okay, these are the problem areas and this is what's lacking. And in essence, my junior role became I think I was at the company for maybe 3 months before I basically took over completely the what had been previously done by the senior staff. In essence, very 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 quickly, I got to transcend my role in the company. And so we started by looking at solving what I argue was the fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem was that they had no like they didn't have an understanding of how to structure a modern web application, at least not the front end code. And in essence, we started by looking at the mistakes that had been made. And the fundamental mistake they made was that they had some person comes in and they basically sit in their own little world, and then they shim in fixes to features, and then they completely ignore testing, they completely ignore documentation and like knowledge sharing or anything like that. So basically, the front end dev was this isolated person who just did his thing or her thing, and then just left everything after a while. So the legacy just accumulated, and it was really important to me at the personal level that we didn't do this mistake again. So we I initiated quite a few projects in where we tried to migrate over, like, because the company wanted to use React, but they were in no position to really make these type of radical changes that our architect wanted to do. So we tried to we had to basically rework the way that they did front end work. And I think we like I'm going to be honest, we did a fairly good job. I mean, a lot of the modern practices they use today, and like the way that they work, and like the overall improvements that have been done over these years I've been with them, are largely due to the work that myself and Alan has contributed to the company. I mean, we had other teams contact us and like wanted to learn like what our techniques were and the way that we did work, because like the rumor that we had some really cool stuff going on our part of the project, the product that we were working on, actually it spread throughout the company, right? And so it was very flattering in many ways. So in essence, that's something that I'm fairly proud of, to have been part of that. I mean, the quality of the code went up by a significant amount. I mean, they didn't even have unit tests on like a large scale when we started. I think they had like 100 tests for a code base that is several thousand lines of code, and now they have like, I think, 1,100 or something. I mean, we increased their coverage by massive amounts, and improve their workflows, standardize their components, introduce the idea of component libraries, move them over to more modern versions of React, and all kinds of improvements like that you would expect from like a fairly modern web application. And we did this in a fairly short amount of time, considering how much tech depth there is, like there were and still is. But anyway, the end results of all as a result of all of this was that we kind of we got this trust from the stakeholders and our product managers and so forth. Because I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of political pushback when I first started, and I was trying to like introduce these changes into the company. And if I didn't have like Alan with me and like had some type of support, I don't know if we ever would have made it that far. But I initiated a few projects, and little by little we earned the trust of the people working, the stakeholders. And in essence, it got to a point where they kind of just like they realized that if you just let Frederick do his thing the way that he's describing it, and and Alan is of course involved as well, we're gonna deliver on time, and the quality of the stuff that's going to be shipped is like in general higher than has ever been produced at the company like previously. And finally, it's also going to be we're going to solve the problem in such a way that the solution transcends my presence and my colleagues' presence at the company. Because as I said, it was very important to us to we had a few new hires which I helped train, and we actually got to benchmark how well we were doing in terms of making sure that the project kind of sustained itself. Like the project had to be able to, like the way that we set it up had to be robust enough so that you can't like come back into legacy mode and like just create all this tech debt again. So because what value is there if we sit there and fix it, and then the next person comes along and just messes it up all over again, right? And frankly, like the learning curve on our new hires was fairly good. I mean, they just kind of got it. So I like to think that that was partly because, like, obviously they're talented people, but that we did a really good job. Okay, so that's in essence what I did at Ticketmaster. I was their front end specialist, and yeah, so JavaScript, Node, CSS, PHP server side when we needed some extra support on the server side. Uh, Benchmarking like load times, speed indexes, all that type of stuff. So yeah, that's it. And what else is there to say? Well, about myself, like I, for the most part, yeah. Well, for those of you who may or may not know me, my favorite thing in the world is programming. Like this, like I really love my job. Like really, really love it to the point where it's almost I almost feel that it takes away from how I feel about it by saying that it's my job, because it's so much more to me. That I mean, this is I do this for 8 hours and get paid for those 8 hours, but when I come home, I do it for another, like, I do it for the rest of the day anyway. And I, as I said, I really love programming. And like, I have a YouTube channel where I teach programming to beginners. I'm starting an initiative where I'm going to video when I answer Stack Overflow questions. I'll solve them in the video, and then I'll send a link to the person who asked the question who wanted help, so that I can walk them, like in a video, actually walk them through the way that I think about the problem and the way that I solved it. Hopefully that will be even more useful than just copy pasting some code to them. As I mentioned earlier, I run a startup with a few people. We actually got a bit of funding and stuff, and we came to the finals in Venture Cup with that thing. So that was a proud moment. Yeah, and I'm always, I'm not a master of every single programming language, but I have a fairly wide range of programming language where I feel comfortable, because I look at myself as a problem solver, and to me, like, just like you use the language like the language you pick should be because of the type of problem you're trying to solve. And since I simply love coding, I naturally pick up new languages because it's extreme, it's interesting, right? So yeah, that's a little bit about myself. And finally, what am I looking for? What's the next thing for me? So the next thing would be to find people who are like-minded to me. Like, since programming is such a big passion for me, it's very important for me to work with people who are as passionate and highly skilled at what they do, because that's actually one of the main reasons why I'm moving away from Ticketmaster, because I feel that even though it's a big company and like there's a lot going on, the their level of tech requirements is fairly low. And to me, it's kind of like you can only like create a form or a web page or a React component so many times before it kind of gets like, it becomes this trivial thing that's not challenging anymore. And that's where I am now. So to me, it's important that my next job doesn't just become, okay, I'll do the exact same thing I did at Ticketmaster. I want to push myself to be even better, because to me, like, my end goal is to become the best programmer that I can possibly become. And to meet that goal, I'm looking for colleagues who can help me become that person, and I can teach them in turn. I mean, I was responsible for almost every single one of the workshops that Ticketmaster has about like React and front-end development and that sort of stuff. And I've also presented a few tech talks here in Gothenburg on the topic. So like, I love to teach, I love to learn. Um, yeah, so that's in essence what I'm looking for. My dream job, I'm gonna be honest, is probably to work for one of the really big companies such as Facebook or Google. I was actually contacted by a very nice woman from Google, and I probably one of the proudest moments in my life, because like, who am I? I'm nobody, right? Like, and for her to like, even contact me, that's, to me, that's just amazing. I was completely blown away, and it got me thinking about, okay, what do I want to do in my career? Like, what is my end goal? And I've realized that my end goal has very little to do with like job title or anything like that. I just want to be really good at what I want to be that person. Like, if you have a problem or your client has a problem, they're like, who we want to fix this? Frederick, that guy. Because we know that if we give the problem to Frederick, it's going to be done really well. He's going to make it work, right? That's the person I want to be. And so that's why Google. I'm not saying that Google or Facebook is like the perfect place to work, but since I'm in this position, like where I'm trying to find good people and not just a fancy title and a lot of money, it's more a the pursuit becomes a little bit more difficult because now you have to kind of you have to get to know people for the most part before you can know if they're really good at what they do or like that dilemma, right? And to me it seems it's fair to assume, I suppose, that the top level IT companies have among the best coders or the best people working for them, and it's of course not exclusive to them, but that's is what I'm looking for. So hopefully I'll find a company where I can meet where I can get an outlet for my burning passion and like really get to do some really cool stuff. And right now I'm looking for a front end role of some sort, like preferably using like either Node, like of course it doesn't have to be Node on the server side or so forth, but ideally doing a lot of like either React or JavaScript based programming and so forth, because I enjoy that language quite a bit. And well, you can look at my profile for some other languages that I feel fairly comfortable with. But yeah, that's in essence what I'm looking for. And if I can't find a nice job doing like front end development and that type of stuff, I'll probably be looking for something in mobile development. Like I'm not a master mobile developer at all. I know my Android. I know Swift development. I use Swift for my iOS application that I build for my startup company. But I'm not a master at all. But I would be extremely, I would be interested in taking on a junior role for that as well. When it comes to JavaScript, I'm looking for something at the mid-level, probably senior, because that's the type of level I would need to feel that I'm still being challenged and I can keep on growing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you got to know me just maybe a little bit better. And if you ever want to you want to grab a beer or just take a coffee or something, just send me a mail or something and let's have a chat. Oh, okay. So hope you have a great day.